topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies, where you will find out that everything you have ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Finally, a show where you'll learn the right way to grow your business by learning business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. And now, here is your host, President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. And joining Michael for today's show as an executive moderator is Chuki Obiyo.
Yes. This is Chuki, and I believe that gratitude is undefeated and growth is about the next step. It is an honor for me to collaborate with my good friend, Michael. Michael, how are you?
Fantastic, Chuki. So as Chuki said, my name is Michael Barbarita, president of Next Step CFO. And Next Step CFO is a fractional CFO and strategic implementation firm. Business owners hire us to double and triple their profit using business and financial strategies that their competition isn't doing. And our vision is to ensure overwhelmed business owners achieve consistent profits that lead to time freedom to build a legacy and live the life they desire. Our mission is dedicated to guiding small business owners to leveraging their time, exploding their profits, and building a meaningful legacy. You know, this show, Powerful Business Strategies, in our book of the same name, is a step toward accomplishing that vision and mission. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to my co-author and moderator for the show, Chuki Obiyo.
Michael, it's funny. So look, I'm feeling very energized by today's episode because we are discussing a topic that I would say it's near and dear to a lot of business owners and the psychology behind that. So the title for today's episode is The Confidence Crisis, Why Smart Business Owners Make Poor Decisions and How to Fix It. So really enthralled by the insights that Michael's prepared. So look, folks, quick disclaimer. Michael and I are both affiliated with a number of different organizations, and I currently serve as a managing director of business development for Better Price, a global business-focused law firm. In addition to that, it's truly an honor to collaborate with Michael to moderate these business roundtables that we do really coast to coast. And we document the insights from these roundtables as part of our book called Powerful Business Strategies. Please note that the views expressed on this show are personal views based on those successful experiences with the roundtables and beyond. And look, my mission as the fearless moderator is to ask the right questions to help you, the listener, learn the best strategies that the competition isn't doing. With that, back over to Michael.
Thank you, Chuki. So I want to point out that we decided to expand on last week's show about decision making. So yes, this is kind of a public service warning. There is similar content, but there's also an expansion of that content in this show. So I wanted to point that out. But I want to stop. I have a question for you. So what's the difference between a business owner who confidently makes $1 million decisions and one who agonizes over a $500 purchase for weeks? Well, it's not intelligence, it's not experience, and it's not even how much money they have in the bank. It's something more fundamental, and it's costing most business owners hundreds of thousands of dollars in missed opportunity every single year. So today, we're going to expose the confidence crisis that's secretly sabotaging even the smartest entrepreneurs. And I'm going to give you the exact framework that transforms hesitant decision makers into confident business leaders who consistently make profitable choices. And if you've ever found yourself paralyzed by a business decision, questioning your instincts, or watching competitors seize opportunities while you deliberate, this episode will change everything for you. So let's dive in. So I want to start with a story that might sound familiar. David owns a successful construction company. He's been in business 15 years. He's got 20 employees. Generates about $3 million in annual sales, and by any measure, David is successful. But here's what's happening behind the scenes. David spent 3 weeks agonizing over whether to invest $15,000 in a piece of equipment that would save his company $50,000 a year. So 3 weeks. So while he was deliberating, his main competitor bought similar equipment and started underbidding him on projects.
That is fascinating, Michael. I mean, wow. So look, what do you think was really holding David back from taking that leap of faith?
Well, it certainly wasn't the money. David had the cash. It wasn't the math. The ROI was pretty clear. But what David was experiencing was what I call confidence crisis, and it's an epidemic among many business owners. So here's what most people don't understand. Confidence in business isn't about feeling good or being positive. Business confidence is the ability to make decisions quickly and decisively based on sound information, even when you don't have all the answers. And the problem is that most business owners have been conditioned to overthink every decision. They've been taught that good business people are cautious, that they analyze everything to death, and that they never take risks. And this is just not the right way. Yeah. In today's fast-moving economy, the biggest risk is not taking risks. The biggest danger is not making decisions quickly enough while you're analyzing your competitors. While you're analyzing your decision-making, your competitors are acting. While you're researching, opportunities are disappearing. And I see this confidence crisis manifesting essentially in three, what I call devastating ways. First, that analysis paralysis. Business owners get so caught up in gathering more information that they never actually make decisions. They research and research and research, but they just never pull the trigger. And second is perfectionism procrastination, where they wait for the perfect solution, that perfect timing, the perfect circumstance. But the truth is, perfect never comes. Good enough implemented immediately beats perfect implemented too late every single time. Yeah. And third, comparison confusion. They look at what other businesses are doing and second guess their own instincts. They see competitors trying something new and panic, thinking that they should do the same thing, even if it doesn't fit their business model.
I think a lot of our listeners are curious about this. So what's the cost of this confidence crisis for the typical business owner?
Yeah, it can be staggering, Chuki. So let me give you a quick example. The average business owner that we work with is probably missing out on at least $200,000 in annual revenue because of poor decision making. Not bad decisions, either slow decisions or no decisions at all. And if you think about it, while David was debating about the $15,000 equipment purchase, he lost 3 projects to his competitor, and these 3 projects were worth $75,000. That would turn into $22,000 in profit. So his 3 weeks of indecision cost him nearly 5 times the price of the equipment that he was worried about buying. And here's the real kicker. After implementing the confident decision framework, David not only bought the equipment, but he also invested in 2 additional pieces and expanded into a new service area. And his revenue increased by about $200,000 in the following year.
That's an incredible transformation, Michael. Wow. Can you give us a little preview on what this confident decision framework looks like?
Sure. So the framework has 4 core components, and I'll break those down in detail throughout the show today. But first is what I call the 72-hour rule. Second is the 80% information principle. Third is the cost of inaction analysis. And fourth is the minimum viable decision process. Now, these 4 elements, they actually work in concert to eliminate the confidence crisis and transform any business owner into a decisive leader who can consistently make profitable choices. And so we're going to dive deep into each one of these today. And I'll guarantee you that by the end of this show, you'll have a completely different approach to business decision making. So let's dive into that first component that I talked about in the confident decision framework. And that first component is what I call the 72-hour rule. And this is really something, if you could commit to, will change the game in your decisions. And it directly contradicts what most business experts will tell you, because Traditional business advice says to take your time, gather all the information, sleep on it. And this approach might have worked in 1985 when business was a lot slower, but it's literally business suicide in 2025. Markets move too fast, opportunities disappear too quickly, and competitors are just too aggressive for slow decision making. The 72-hour rule states that any business decision that takes longer than 72 hours to implement should be made. It should be made within 72 hours. So notice I didn't say implement it. I said decide it. So here's why this works. So most business decisions are reversible. You can try something, measure the results, and adjust. The few decisions that are truly irreversible, like selling your company or certain employee decisions, those deserve more time. But 95% of business decisions can be tested, modified, or completely reversed if they don't work out. That's a beautiful thing. We talk about testing a lot, and it's one of the best pieces of ammunition a business owner has. They can test everything. So let me give you a real example. A restaurant spent 2 months debating whether to add delivery service. So 2 months, that's an inordinate period of time. During those 2 months, by the way, 3 competitors launched delivery and watched potential customers ordering from them instead. And so when he implemented the 72-hour rule, he decided within 72 hours to test delivery with just dinner service, just Thursday through Sunday, just within a 3-mile radius. And it was a minimum viable decision that he could implement quickly and adjust based on the results. Well, the test happened to be successful, so he expanded to lunch, increased the delivery radius. But here's the key: even if the test had failed, he would have only lost a small amount of money and gained valuable market intelligence. So instead of 2 months of analysis paralysis, he had 2 weeks of real market data.
Michael, it's interesting, right? I can already hear some listeners thinking, wow, but what if I make the wrong decision quickly? How do you address that concern?
Well, that's exactly the right question. So, and it reveals the fundamental misunderstanding about business decision making. Most business owners are trying to make the right decision, but that's the wrong goal entirely. The goal is not to make the right decision. The goal is to make decisions right. And there's a huge difference. Making the right decision implies there's one perfect choice, and if you just analyze long enough, you'll find it. Well, that's a myth. In most business situations, there are multiple potentially successful paths, and the key is picking one and executing it brilliantly. So making decisions right means having a systematic process for making choices quickly, implementing them effectively, measuring the results, and adjusting course based on what you learn. And here's a perfect example that I mentioned last week. Netflix, when they decided to shift from DVD by mail to streaming, was that the right decision? Well, we know now that it was, but at the time, it was highly controversial. Many investors thought it was a mistake, and some customers were actually furious. But Netflix didn't wait until they were 100% certain that streaming would work. They made the decision based on the information they had, and they implemented it decisively. They measured customer response, and they adjusted their approach on what they learned. That's making decisions right, not making the right decisions. So now let me share the second component, the 80% information principle. This principle states that you should make decisions when you have 80% of the information you think you need, not 100. Why 80? Because the last 20% of information usually takes 80% of the time to gather. And by that time, it's a lost opportunity. And so I worked with a client who wanted to expand into new market. He spent 4 months researching demographics, competition, local regulations, customer preferences, just about everything you can think of. And that was admirable. But by the time he finished his research and felt he was ready to move, two competitors had already entered that same market and captured most of the early adopters. And here's what we should have done. We should have gathered the essential 80% of information in 2 weeks, made the decision to test the market with a small pilot, and learn the remaining 20% through actual market experience, through the testing. So the information you get from real customers spending real money is infinitely more valuable than theoretical research.
I could not agree more with that. Now, Michael, look, this is really challenging conventional wisdom, and that's part of what we do here in the show, right? Can you give us a practical framework for determining when we have that crucial 80% of information?
Yes, well, here's like a little 80% information checklist. You're ready to decide when you can answer these 5 questions. Number 1, what is the worst case realistic scenario? And can we survive? Notice I said realistic, not possible. It's realistic that it's realistic that a meteor can hit your business, but it's not realistic. So 2, what's the best case scenario? Realistic scenario, that is. And is it worth pursuing? Again, realistic is the key. You could theoretically become the next Amazon, but what's realistically achievable in the next 12 months? 3, what would be different if we had perfect information? If the answer is not much, then you probably have enough information to decide. 4, what's the cost of waiting another month to decide, including opportunity costs, competitive risks, and market changes? And then 5, can we test this decision on a small scale before fully committing? And if yes, then the risk of deciding quickly is really minimal. And by the way, testing can happen virtually every single time. And if you can answer these 5 questions with confidence, you have 80%. You have your 80%. Everything else is perfectionism or masquerading as thoroughness. So let me quickly tell you about Sarah, who owns a marketing agency. She wanted to add video production services, but spent 6 months researching equipment, training programs, pricing models, and competition. During those 6 months, she turned away 4 clients who needed video services.
Wow.
But using our framework, here's what she should have done. Partnered with a freelance video producer for the first few projects, tested the market demand, and then decided whether to invest in the equipment and training based on actual customer response. And she would have generated revenue immediately as a result, and learned that her customers actually wanted a much better way, a much better long-term decision based on real market feedback rather than the theory that you agonize over.
Yeah, Michael, before we move on to our next segment, what's one action step listeners can take right now to start implementing the 72-hour rule and the 80% information principle?
So here's the homework on that. Think of one decision you've been putting off. Maybe it's hiring somebody, maybe it's investing in new technology, maybe it's expanding a service offering or raising prices. And set a timer for 72 hours from now. During those 72 hours, gather your information using my 5-question framework. But when the timer goes off, you must make the decision. No extensions, no just a few more days. Decide, implement, and learn from the results. That's how you build decision-making confidence. So before we continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back to Powerful Business Strategies. And remember, you can go to powerfulbusinessstrategies.com for any of our replays. Now let's explore the third component of our confident decision framework, the cost of inaction analysis. This is where most business owners really completely miss the boat. So when evaluating decision, most people only consider the cost of taking action. They think about what might go wrong, how much money they might lose, what problems they might create, but they completely ignore the cost of not taking action. Some people call this opportunity cost. This is a massive blind spot that's costing business owners a lot of money. Every day you don't make a decision is a day competitors might be getting ahead. Market conditions might be changing, or opportunities might be disappearing. And let me give you a quick example. A plumbing contractor was considering investing $50,000 in GPS tracking and scheduling software for his trucks. He kept focusing on the $50,000 cost and worrying about whether the software would really improve efficiency. And in the meantime, he wasn't calculating the cost of not making this investment. And here's what was happening. His trucks were spending an extra 30 minutes per day driving between jobs due to poor roading. With 10 trucks, that's 5 hours of wasted labor daily, or about 1,300 hours per year. At $75 an hour, that's $97,500 in lost productivity annually. Plus, poor scheduling was causing him to miss emergency service calls, which typically pay double rates. He was losing at least 50 high-value emergency calls per year, which are worth approximately 15 grand in lost revenue. So while he was worried about spending 50 grand, his indecision was actually costing him over 112,000 per year. So the real question wasn't whether he could afford to buy software, it was whether he could afford not to buy it.
Michael, we've got a question from a listener. And by the way, I mean, a lot of the insights that you're generating today, I mean, stuff is really driving conversation. So look, how can business owners systematically identify those costs of inaction?
Well, that's a good question. So I developed what I call the inaction impact calculator. It has 4 categories. First, direct revenue loss. What sales are you missing by not taking the action? This could be customers going to competitors, maybe market share you're not capturing that others are, or premium pricing you're not commanding. Second is efficiency waste. What's the cost of continuing inefficient process? This includes wasted time, duplicated effort, manual processes that could be automated, or resources that aren't optimized. Third is competitive disadvantage. What advantages are your competitors gaining while you deliberate? Are they capturing additional market share, building customer loyalty? Are they establishing themselves as that go-to provider in your space because they have something more up to date? Fourth, opportunity decay. How is the opportunity itself changing over time? Markets shift, customer preferences evolve, regulations change, and what looks attractive today might be much less appealing in 6 months. So let me share another real example. A retailer was considering launching an e-commerce site, and she kept delaying the decision because she was worried about the complexity and cost. Using the inaction impact calculator, here's what she discovered. Direct revenue loss was turning away approximately 20 customers per month who asked if they could order online. The average order value was $150, so she was losing about $3,000 monthly in direct sales, or $36,000 a year. Then there was efficiency waste. She was spending 10 hours per week managing phone orders that could be automated online at a $75 an hour value. That's 39 grand per year in wasted time. Competitive disadvantages. 2 competitors had launched e-commerce sites in the past year, and they were gaining market share, especially among younger customers. Opportunity decay, COVID, had accelerated the shift to online shopping, but as things normalized, the urgency for customers to find online alternatives was dipping. Total cost of inaction, over $75,000 per year, while the e-commerce investment was only $15,000. So once she saw these numbers, the decision became obvious. She launched her site within 30 days and recovered her investment in less than 3 months. Now let's talk about the fourth and final component, the minimum viable decision process. This concept is borrowed from the startup world, but it applies to every business decision. So instead of trying to make perfect decisions, make minimum viable decisions. The smallest possible choice that'll give you real market feedback and move your business forward. And here's how that works. So instead of asking, what's the perfect solution? Ask, what's the smallest step we can take to test our assumptions, that word again, and learn from real results. I had a client who wanted to expand into commercial cleaning, but was paralyzed by all the variables like equipment needs, staffing requirements, insurance costs, marketing approaches. We could have spent months analyzing every aspect. Instead, we used a minimum viable decision approach. We identified one small commercial client that he could service with his existing equipment and staff, just to test the waters. One client, one building, 1 month trial. That single test taught him more about commercial cleaning than 6 months of research would have. And he learned that what equipment he really needed, what pricing really worked, what challenges he was going to face, and whether he'd enjoy that type of work, whether he was willing to change his business model to that type of work. And so based on that real experience, he was able to make an informed decision and full expansion. And the test cost him almost nothing, but gave him this valuable market intelligence.
Michael, I mean, this minimum viable decision approach, I mean, it's fascinating. It sounds like it could really apply to all business situations, if not, every single business situation, candidly. Now, can you give us a framework for designing these tests?
Great. Yeah, sure. So here's my minimum viable decision framework. So step one is define your core assumption. What do you believe will happen if you take this action? And be specific. Step two, design the smallest possible test. What's the minimum investment of time, money, and resources that will give you meaningful data? Step three, set clear success metrics. How will you know if the test worked? What specific results are you looking for? Step four, establish a timeline. How long will you run the test? Don't let it drag on. Step five, plan your scale-up strategy. If the test succeeds, what's your plan for expanding? If it fails, what will you try next? So let me give you a quick example. A restaurant owner wanted to add catering service, but was overwhelmed by the logistics using our framework. Core assumption: local businesses would pay premium prices for convenient, high-quality catered lunches. Minimum test: offer catering to just 3 existing customers using current menu items for 2 weeks. Success metrics: at least 2 of the 3 customers place repeat orders, and profit margin is at least 40%. The timeline: 2 weeks for initial test, then 2 weeks to analyze results. And the scale-up strategy: if successful, expand to 10 customers and develop catering-specific menu items. Well, the test cost less than $500, but provided clear evidence that catering would be profitable. Based on those results, she confidently invested in expanding the service and generated an additional $150,000 in revenue the following year.
Wow. So as we wrap up this segment, what's the biggest mindset shift, Michael, that you think business owners need to make in order to implement this confident decision framework?
Well, I think the biggest shift is moving from avoiding mistakes to learning quickly. See, most business owners are trying to avoid making the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
But that's kind of impossible because every successful business owner makes hundreds of wrong decisions. And so the key is making wrong decisions quickly and cheaply and learning from them, and then adjusting course. Netflix made the wrong decision about Quickster. Amazon made the wrong decision about the Fire Phone. Google made the wrong decision about Google Plus. But they made those decisions quickly, learned from the results, and moved on to better decisions. And that's what confident decision makers do. They optimize for learning speed, not decision perfection.
Michael, are you saying perfection? Yeah, I was going to say, are you saying perfection is overrated, Michael? Was that what
that's the point. That's actually the point I'm trying to make. And you said it very succinctly. You didn't have to do an hour show on it. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back to Powerful Business Strategies. And remember, you can catch any replay at powerfulbusinessstrategies.com. So now I want to address the big elephant in the room, and why are so many intelligent, experienced business owners struggling with this confidence crisis? It's not because they're not smart enough or experienced enough. It's because they've been programmed with the wrong decision-making models. So most businesses, or most business education that you learn, teaches you to minimize risk. But in today's economy, the biggest risk is moving too slowly. With all the speed that's available, with AI, with all the technology, and traditional business schools teach exhaustive analysis, but exhaustive analysis leads to exhausted opportunities. And here's what's really happening. We live in the information-rich, but insight-poor world. Business owners think more information will give them more confidence, but actually it does the opposite, because too much information creates confusion and analysis paralysis. I call this information overwhelm syndrome. The more data you gather, the more variables you discover, the more complexity you uncover, and the less confident you are about making any decision at all. And so let me tell you about James, who owns a digital marketing agency. He wanted to add social media management service to his offering. So he researched 47 different social media management tools, read 23 industry reports, surveyed 156 potential customers, and analyzed 31 competitor pricing models. After 3 months of this exhausting research, he knew more about social media management than most people in the industry. But you know what happened? He was more confused than when he started. Every piece of information seemed to contradict something else he'd learned. Every tool had pros and cons. Every pricing model had advantages and disadvantages.
Remarkable. So how did James break through this information overwhelm, Michael? I know overwhelm is something that we talk about quite often.
Oh, yeah. So he implemented the good enough plus speed principle. So instead of trying to make the perfect decision, he focused on making a good enough decision quickly, then improving it through real world experience. And here's what he did. He picked the social media management tool that met 80% of his requirements, even though it wasn't perfect. He set pricing based on 3 competitive examples, not 31. He launched with 5 existing clients who had already expressed an interest, so he tested it. And within 30 days, James had real customers using the service and real feedback about what worked and what didn't. That real world experience taught him more in 1 month than 3 months of research had. But here's the really important part. The perfect tool he originally wanted to choose became available 6 months later. And by then, James had been running successful social media campaigns for half a year and had refined his process. He had happy customers and it generated an additional 75 grand in revenue. Perfect came too late. Good enough plus speed won the race. Now, let me share the most counterintuitive insight about confident decision making. The goal is to not increase your success rate. The goal is to increase your decision-making speed while maintaining an acceptable success rate. Most business owners think they need to be right 90% of the time. That's wrong thinking. If you're right 90% of the time, you're probably not taking enough risk or moving fast enough. The most successful entrepreneurs I know are right about 60 to 70% of the time, but they make decisions so much faster than their competitors, and they end up winning much more often. They fail forward fast, learn faster, and adjust faster. Think about it this way. If you make 1 decision per month and you're right 90% of the time, you'll have about 11 successes per year. But if you make 1 decision per week and you're right 70% of the time, you'll have about 36 successes per year. Speed beats perfection every single time.
That is such a fascinating perspective. And again, Michael's credit to like the way your CFO mind works. I just love the way you quantified that as it relates to like number of successes per year. So look, can you give us a practical set of techniques for making faster decisions without sacrificing quality?
I can. So here are the 5 speed techniques for confident decision making. So technique number 1 is the pre-decision framework. So before you're faced with a decision, establish your criteria for similar decisions. For example, any marketing investment under $5,000 that can generate at least 3 times the ROI within 6 months gets an approval. Having pre-established criteria eliminates the need to reanalyze basic questions every time. Technique number 2, the advisory board shortcut. Identify 3 trusted advisors who understand your business. When facing a decision, get their input within 24 hours. 3 experienced perspectives can often provide better insight than a week of solo analysis. Technique 3, the 10-10-10 rule. Ask yourself, how will I feel about the decision in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years? We have to be visionary in our thinking. That's why the 10 years is in there. And this helps separate decisions with short-term consequences from those with long-term impacts. Technique number 4, the reversibility test. Ask if this doesn't work out. How easily can it be reversed or modify this decision? If it's easily reversible, make the decision quickly. Only truly irreversible decisions deserve any extended analysis or any extended time. Technique 5 is the opportunity cost clock. For every decision, start a mental clock that tracks how much the delay is costing you. If the cost of the delay exceeds the cost of a wrong decision, choose speed. And let me give you a real example of these techniques in action. So a construction company was considering whether to bid on large municipal project, on one single municipal project. And normally, he might spend weeks analyzing this opportunity. Instead, he used the speed technique. Pre-decision framework. He'd already established that any project over 500 grand needed to meet specific criteria with a minimum margin of 15%, payment terms of 30 or better, 30 days or better, that is, and a completion timeline of 6 months or less. Advisory board shortcut. He called 3 trusted colleagues who had experience with municipal work and got their insights within 24 hours. The 10-10-10 rule. In 10 minutes, he'd feel excited about the opportunity. In 10 months, if successful, it would establish credibility for future municipal work. And in 10 years, it could be the foundation of a new revenue stream. Reversibility test. If he won the bid, but it went poorly, he could choose not to bid on similar projects in the future. That's simple. The risk was contained to this one project. Opportunity cost clock. While he was deliberating, the bidding deadline was approaching and other contractors were likely developing stronger proposals. And the result, he made the decision to bid within 48 hours instead of the usual 2 weeks. He won the project, completed it successfully, and it led to 3 additional municipal contracts worth over $2 million.
Wow. Look, Michael, I mean, these techniques are really intriguing. In fact, we've got some questions from listeners. I'll just pick up on one question here. So these techniques, they seem like they would apply to both big and small decisions, but are there any category of decisions that should not use this fast decision approach?
Well, there are definitely decisions that deserve more time. So that is an excellent question. And it's crucial to know the difference. Slow down for what I call foundational decisions. So choices that will define your business for years to come. These include choosing your business model, selecting long-term partners, making major acquisitions, or decisions involving significant debt or equity. And also if you're selling, I think that requires a lot of extra thought. But here's what surprises most people. 95% of business decisions are not foundation decisions. They're what I call learning decisions. These are choices that help you test, adjust, and improve your business incrementally. The problem is that most business owners treat learning decisions like foundation decisions. Mm-hmm. They spend foundation level time analyze decisions that should be made quickly and adjusted based on results. For example, choosing which accounting software to use is a learning decision, not a foundation decision. You can always switch software if it doesn't work out. But many business owners spend months researching accounting software options when they should spend that time actually using software to manage their finances better. So here's my rule. If you can undo the decision within 90 days without catastrophic consequences, it's a learning decision. Make it fast, implement it quickly, and adjust it based on results.
Michael, as we wrap up this segment, what's the number one thing holding business owners back from really making confident decisions?
I'd say fear of judgments. See, most business owners are afraid that if they make a decision that doesn't work out, they'll be judged as incompetent by employees, customers, or peers. But here's the truth. Your employees, customers, and peers are watching how you handle uncertainty, not whether every decision turns out perfectly. They want to see leadership, decisiveness, and the ability to learn and adapt. A confident leader who makes decisions quickly and adjusts course when needed is just far more inspiring than a paralyzed perfectionist who never takes action because they're afraid of making mistakes. Your people don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be decisive. And as we wrap up today's show, let me summarize the key insights that can really improve and transform your decision-making and your confidence starting today. First, we expose the confidence crisis that's costing business owners hundreds of thousands of dollars in missed opportunities. This isn't about personality or intelligence. It's about having the wrong decision framework. Second, we introduced the 4 components of the confident decision framework. The 72-hour rule. Make decisions based on 72 hours instead of letting them drag on indefinitely. Most business decisions are reversible, so speed beats perfection. The 80% information principle. Make decisions when you have 80% of the information you think you need. The last 20% usually takes 80% of the time, and often, 80% of the time to compile, and often doesn't change the decision anyway. The cost of inaction analysis. Always calculate what is costing you not to make a decision. Factor in lost revenue, efficiency waste, competitive disadvantage, and opportunity decay. The minimum viable decision process. Instead of trying to make perfect decisions, make the smallest decision that will give you real market feedback and test. Third, we discussed how to overcome information overwhelm by focusing on good enough plus speed rather than perfectionism plus paralysis. Fourth, we shared 5 speed techniques, pre-decision frameworks, advisory board shortcuts, the 10-10-10 rule, reversibility test, and opportunity cost clocks.
Michael, if a business owner listening could only implement one thing from today's show, what would you recommend?
Well, I'd recommend starting with the 72-hour rule, Chuki. You pick one decision that you've been putting off and commit to making it within 72 hours. Not implementing it, just deciding. This single practice will begin rewiring your brain for confident decision making. But here's what I want everyone to understand. Confidence isn't something you're born with or without. Business confidence is a skill that can be developed through practice. Every time you make a decision quickly and learn from the results, you're building that confidence muscle. The most successful business owners aren't those who never make mistakes. They're those who make decisions quickly, learn from the results, and adjust course rapidly. They understand that in business, speed of implementation beats perfection of planning. And remember, your competitors, your competitors are making decisions while you're researching. So your customers are finding solutions while you're analyzing. And your opportunities are disappearing while you're deliberating. The market rewards action, not analysis. It rewards speed, not perfection. It rewards those who are able to make decisions with complete information and learn from real results. So we've all been taught. Oh, sorry.
No,
Go
please.
ahead.
Yeah.
We've all been taught that good business people are careful. They're thorough and conservative. But the world has changed. What worked in 1985 doesn't work in 2025. But here's my challenge to every listener. For the next 30 days, commit to making one business decision per week using our framework. Start small. Maybe it's trying a new marketing approach or implementing a new process or testing a new service offering. Track your results. I guarantee you'll discover that making decisions quickly and adjusting based on results produces much better outcomes than endless analysis and delayed implementation. And if you need any help in implementing any of these strategies, well, that's exactly what we do at Next Step CFO. We help business owners build the systems and confidence they need to make profitable business decisions quickly and consistently. So to get a copy of our book, Powerful Business Strategies, simply go to our website, www.nextstepcfo.net. It's totally complimentary. And until next Monday at noon Eastern Time, for Chuki Obiyo, my name is Michael Barbarita, and remember, don't keep doing what your competition is doing.
You have been listening to Powerful Business Strategies, finding out that everything you ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Tune in next week and every week at noon Eastern Time on W4CY Radio with your host, Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO and moderator Chuki Obiyo.